Welcome, NAO folks, boys and girls, lovers and haters. I am speaking to you, Ian. You are a giant hater. Welcome to the show. This week we are going to do our ranking show. I know everybody's been waiting on this episode of the NAO show to come out to find out where they rank amongst all the ranking tools that we have. We're going to go through 10 to 6 this week, and then the magical 5 to 1 next week. Shocker, I am in the top 5. Congratulations to me. Thank you.
Finally. well, 5th is where you like to be.
It's my like, I get into the 5th round, like 5th range real easy, you know, like I don't have to really work that hard to get there. Because everybody behind me kind of sucks ass, but everybody ahead of me is pretty good, you know, like depending on who they are.
It's your comfort zone.
I think
It's my comfort zone, exactly.
I think the real takeaway here is the rest of the league should pay us $50 for doing this, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take $50 to tell them why I'm 5th.
Yeah, we got data, we got this, we got rankings. Why do you need?
They should at least pay you, Mike. I mean, you know, work was missed, deadlines were missed, customers were ignored, but you got this shit done, man.
We got to give you some props for showing real good judgment on your priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're supposed to be at work, skipping work to do our ranking show.
Mm-hmm.
We love
Here
you,
it is.
Tank Top.
It's all worth it because, you know, as long as I'm near the top in day 2, it's worth it to put this together. We'll see in a few years.
If you missed the beginning of the show, I'm in the second part of this also. I'm on day 2 also. All right, this is where I pass it off to the birthday boy, Mick Jammer, and he can start the show. Happy birthday, big guy.
Thanks, man. Thanks. All right. So what Mike did here, man, was he went on to 5 different sites, and he put our league in, got the rankings. So we did Dynasty Ranker, Dynasty Assistant, Football Guys, Fantasy Pros, and Dynasty Nerds. And he went through a long, arduous process to average it all out and give us an expert consensus ranking on our league. So, interestingly enough, it came up very close to what we paid those guys to do. That's why Mike's talking about maybe we should just pay us. I say we pay Mike because he did all the work. We're just here riding on his coattails. But yeah, so the top 3 was the same. The bottom 4 was the same. The only mix-up was in the middle. And easy to mix up the middle, but the top 3 and the bottom 4 were exactly the same as our guest podcast. But we'll go through it anyway, and we'll give our comments on everybody's roster and what we think about all this.
I'll tell you what, when we're doing rankings, I think it's like that. Like the top 3, they're pretty solid. The bottom 3, they're pretty solid. From that 4 to 7 range, I think it could go either way, and that's where the competitiveness of this league is, like between that 4 to 7 range. But I just want to say before we get started, the football guys, whoever does the rankings on that, can go F themselves because they are way off freaking course, all right?
Yeah,
they had the audacity to put me 7th overall.
Yeah. So that was my lowest one too, but it was Mike's highest.
Yeah.
So we're split amongst the NAO show crew of what we think about those guys. What do you think, Mike? I think you liked him, didn't you?
Yeah, Aaron probably likes him too because Aaron he was well, we'll get to Aaron, but yeah, they were his highest ranking as well by quite a bit.
Yeah. So what we'll do here is we'll go through the top 10 in reverse order. We'll say where they were, their lowest, their highest, where they came out. Then we're just going to have a little round table on each roster and give our 2 cents, which is worth about half a cent with inflation right now. So,
I don't count for anything.
but thanks a lot, Mike, though, for doing all this. You put a lot of work into it. I really appreciate it.
I think.
So,
There's-
all right, we'll start with the number 10 team. No surprise here. It is, well, we're silly dilly, but what's he calling his team now? Fuck Andy and somebody.
All right, so he needs to keep that name
Yep.
for the whole season. So when they
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
and they go, wait, is he talking to us?
yeah,
Yes, he is.
yeah. That's actually a good name. I like that name for sure. Yeah, he was number 10. So his highest was 8. His lowest was number 10, and he averaged out at 9.4. And we got him down there in the last place, number 10. So one of you guys start us off on what do we think about his roster? We know he was doing the win now thing.
Wait.
Did he do enough to win now? Does he really have a win now, or
Can you
is he
explain,
really?
what a win now team is supposed to do? Because
They're supposed to
looking
win.
at Dilly Dilly's lineup and these rankings, in his goal, more of a freaking dream or a wish at this point. But yeah, obviously we are not the only people that thinks his win now strategy is straight hot trash. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I mean, yeah, we were talking about the silly luck all last year, but then as we were talking about it before we got on here, like he was in the bottom 4 last year. I mean, so was I, so I'm not dogging him for that, but like, strength of schedule now. Like, me and Dilly were in the bottom 4. Now we're up in the big dog category, so we have some stiffer competition, and the strength of schedule could come into play for some Dilly luck this year.
Come on, Tank Top. You don't think Marlon Mack is going to be a top 5 running back this year?
Well, the last news I heard about Marlon Mack was to start the season, the Texans might lean on him, but the Texans are bad, so.
There's another Texans running back that I foresee taking over that backfield.
That could
Quick,
happen.
fast, and in a hurry. So
Yeah, that could happen
we'll
pretty
see how
quick.
long Marlon Mack is even fantasy relevant.
Well, he was a healthy scratch all last year too, wasn't he? Like the Colts just didn't. I mean, maybe they didn't want to get him hurt so they could trade him or do something, get some value from him. But he was a healthy scratch. So.
Yeah, I think they were trying to. They trotted him out there and let him have a little bit of work, and I think they were trying to trade him, saying, "Hey, doesn't he look good? Doesn't he look explosive out there?" But when there were no takers, they sat him. They didn't want to have him out there. I mean, you got Taylor out there, so you can understand that. Naeem Hines is their passing down back, and so why did they really need to play him? But yeah, I'm looking through Dylan's lineup, and the thing that comes to mind is injury.
yeah.
It's like, of course they're old. His starting lineup is average age of 37 or something like that, man. I mean, they are up there, man. They are up there. And so you look at a guy like Fournette, who had a good season last year, but he had a little bit of an injury problem last year. He played through it, but it was at the writing on the wall. Is that what we can expect this year? Maybe is he gonna come back out? And he saw how overweight he was. Some of those pictures of him in camp, which I'm not. That's OTA, so I'm not reading too much into that. But you get older, you have trouble keeping the weight off, and those little nagging injuries come up. Connor the same way. Go ahead.
I think Fournette going into next season will be okay. I think he is probably the only person on his starting roster that will be to what their average is for the last couple of years, besides Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to sling the fucking football all over the place like he normally does. I think he's the most solid player on his starting lineup. Before Fournette, he might need to have a second back, probably White or Gio. I don't know, because Tom Brady likes Gio, but Fournette is probably the safest play on his overall roster besides maybe Thielen.
Well, even Thielen had some injury concerns now, and he's into his 30s, and I mean he's a great wide receiver. Obviously, at the top or near the top of like total touchdowns the last few seasons, at like some crazy stat like that. So, but then it comes back to like what Mark said, the injury concerns and somebody like that, or you got to bring him up.
Yep. Yeah. One of his youngest guys is.
Oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, one of his youngest guys there is Damian Harris, and he got dinged up a little bit last year. I mean, that's just running backs in general. They're gonna, it's hard for a running back to play full season of 17 games now. They're gonna miss a game here and there for maybe an ankle or a hammy or something like that. So, but Harris is probably Harris and Edmonds down here in his flex are two of his younger guys, but they dealt with injuries, in over their career as well. So Ertz at tight end and Robert Woods coming off of the ACL. As I went down through this, I wanted to come in here and say, Dylan doesn't rank well in Dynasty, but he's going to be okay as if it was a redraft. But I wouldn't even like this. I don't even think I'd like this in redraft. I mean, it's just too much. There's too many concerns here for me. And then if you look at his depth, it's just not quite there.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the depth. I mean, you talk about some running back concerns. His depth at running back consists of Ronald Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, and go ahead, Sean.
I think Ronald Jones is a good depth piece. But it all depends on what that Kansas City team is going to look like moving forward. Everything coming out says that they're going to be more balanced now that Tyreek Hill's gone. But I mean, when your best player is the quarterback, you're going to throw the ball. Like Patrick Mahomes is not going to only throw it 5 times in a game. He's still going to throw it 20 plus times a game. So are those targets going to go to the running backs like they went for Darrell Williams last year or what have you? But I mean, having Rojo as your depth play is a good depth play, but as your only depth, I would definitely question that.
I would say that I would give Keyshawn the nod over Rachaad White only because of Brady and the fact that Rashad's a rookie, and I don't see a rookie unless he does something really special in training camp. I don't see him stepping right in there to block for Brady, to be there to catch the ball, get dump offs or whatever else from Brady. I think Keyshawn kind of established himself a little bit last year as the number 2 there. I could be wrong. I think Rachaad White might be a better player than Vaughn in the long run, but I think coming into this year, I'd say Vaughn is probably the backup there, and so if something happens to Fournette, I think Dylan's got the right guy there to help him out, and I think Benjamin is a good sleeper candidate. Benjamin, could be his time to move up the chart. A lot of people talking about Keontae Ingram going there, who I think is good too, but I think that Benjamin may have earned some reps and could be the number 2 guy there. So he might have some good backup depth there, but something's going to happen to the.
I was going to say, if Benjamin does make that step, you're talking about McJammer. It's going to hurt Connor, right? Like, it's got to come from somebody, and Connor's the only other running back that's gotten any sort of usage in Arizona. So if Benjamin's going to make a step forward, it's going to have to be on 3rd down and being the receiving, or it's going to cut into James Conner, which is going to ultimately hurt not FNG, but Silly Dilly moving forward anyways, because he needs Conner to be the goal line guy like he was last year. It's 20-something freaking touchdowns.
I think Benjamin can kind of slide into that Chase Edmonds role and maybe be the next man up. So I feel like Dylan with Connor and Fournette there as his 1 and 2, I feel like he's got the right guys backing him up. But then, that's I mean, I can't go much further on his depth than I mean, he's got Lockett with a quarterback downgrade. He's got Jacoby Myers, um, solid guy, but a flex guy. Maybe Jones gets a team. Hopkins is out for 6 weeks, so yeah, that's the big thing, Mike. You said something about the depth too. That you you know one or two injuries, and what has he got left there? So.
And Keel
So
Harry.
looking at his lineup, where do you guys see he needs to have a big upside on to outdo his 10th ranking here on the NAO show?
What do you think, Mike?
I think he's going to have to get not lucky. I think he's going to have to get a little bit better on picking some of his flex guys. I think, like Mark said, the starting running backs. You can talk about their dynasty value, but they're the right guys to have, starting. But it's going to be, Marlon Mack's not going to be a starter all season. So who do you slide in for him on a week to week? Who do you slide in for Chase Edmonds on a week to week? That kind of deal. Like getting that efficiency metric that we've always talked about, Silly, getting a little bit higher.
I think on that point, Tank Top, we got to give Dilly some credit. When he went to full win it now mode, he went to go some big names, senior big names in D-Hop, Julio Jones, and OBJ. All these names have been fantasy relevant, but getting them now is kind of a crapshoot. He hops out, 6 games on suspension. Julio Jones doesn't even have a freaking team he plays on. OBJ says he will be good in November. I don't know if you know this, but the fantasy league in the season start way before November, so he's not going to help him anytime soon. So I think he was trying to get some real big names and hoping that they live up to their names, what they've established already. But he's gotten some real bad luck with those 3 dudes.
Yeah, age and injuries both. Because last year was the first year D-Hop really, he struggled with injuries last year. He missed about 6 games, I think. Just with injury last year, maybe more. Going to miss 6 games with suspension this year. Julio with the soft tissue stuff. I just don't. If Julio comes in and does anything, I'll be really surprised. I don't doubt that he'll get a shot with some team, but with his soft tissue injuries that he's had and at his age, I would be real surprised if he did much this year. So.
Titans legend Julio Jones.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on.
Yeah, we'll go to the number 9 team. That was Just the Tips. And they were highest at 9 and lowest at 10. So they were pretty much a consensus bottom of the league team. Just like the Rate My Team guys gave them 9. There were 9 here as well. So, yeah, we all know that Ricky did the big rebuild last year. Started out really well. Henry got hurt, kind of went off the rails, and he kind of did I think he's in another rebuild now. In his second rebuild, he's been in the league 1 year, and he's in his second rebuild. That's pretty interesting, man. So, talk about just the tips, if you would.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think you look at the numbers that he's ranked. 9, only 9s and 10s. Dilly did have the 8 with football guys, but I think I agree with putting tips slightly higher. They had a really good draft, or a better draft, I should say. Yeah. I think Sky Moore is a guy that they have him as their wide receiver starting already, and I agree with that. And they made some other really good draft choices. They did a lot of trading, and I think that alone kind of puts them over Dilly overall ranking. And they have the number 1 paid wide receiver of all time in Christian Kirk. How can you go wrong with that?
Well, yeah, I gotta give you some justification for that. I mean, Christian Kirk. I mean, Jacksonville's paying him a boatload, so he must be the next Devontae Adams or what have you, right? Depending on how much he's getting paid. But yeah, I gotta agree with you, Tank Top. I think looking at his lineup, it's definitely rebuild still. He's got some really good coals in the fire right now with Sky Moore and Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's older and third, but he could be turned into pretty good depth if he stays on the team forward. The team being Cincinnati, and of course Kyle Pitts. He's probably the best dynasty tight end you can have right now, and I think Kirk has a pretty good year. I've made some talk about acquiring him for depth for my team, but I think I like him more as a possible flex than a dependent upon flex. So obviously his team is in rebuild. I think he's made some good moves in drafting. I'm not a big Sky Moore fan. I think he's going to be a giant bust, but I am one to a lot of people that think he's going to be good, and it wouldn't be shocker if I'm wrong. But
wide receiver 2 going in, that's not bad to have on the Chiefs.
Yeah. What do you think, Mark?
Well, yeah, I think they're really weak at running back. When you got Singletary and Michael Carter in your 1-2 spot, man, that's just you're looking at the bench to see if they just made a mistake or they're playing around with their lineup or something. But I mean, the guy I'm most excited about in their running backs on their top 30 anyway is Hassan Haskins. Just thinking that maybe he'd be the next man up if something goes south with Derrick Henry, who's had a lot of touches and he had the injuries last year. Another older guy that you kind of have to wonder if he's gonna be in there or not. So yeah, I look at the running backs and I'm thinking, man, it's gonna be kind of brutal for him this year dealing with starting these guys. Pitts is great. That's almost like their building block. It's funny to think of a tight end as the guy that they're going to build around. It's to me, I look at it as like the all upside guys, the all upside team. I like Kirk, and I've been a believer in him, and thought that if he got a opportunity, he could do something. So I wouldn't. I think the people are down on him because he got so much money, and he hadn't really done enough to earn that money. But I think that they're going to pepper him with targets. I mean, they didn't pay him that money to send him around. I think he's going to be a slot receiver, starting slot receiver. He's going to be good. We'll just have to see if Trevor can come along and do much with him. But yeah, Moore, I kind of a question mark for me. Again, maybe an upside guy. Going down through, they got guys like Tolbert, Doves, I like these guys, David Bell, Nico Collins, but none of these guys are proven yet. So they could finish in the middle of the pack, or they could finish down there where they've been where they've been ranked right now. It's just a lot of question marks on their roster as I look up and down it.
I think an interesting thing to point out, and not to go backwards to Dilly at number 10 and beat him up a little more. When we talked about Dilly's team, it was win now. He made some moves to go after it, and when we talked about the tips, it was rebuilding again. They're doing this on purpose, and I think it's an important distinction because F&G was down here for a while all last season, and that was what he was doing, and that's what the tips are doing this year. So. It's I think an interesting 9 and 10, with one going after the win and maybe stumbling slightly, and the other one doing a conscious, pretty okay rebuild.
Great point. Great point.
Yep. Well, anything else we want to say about these guys? Yeah, I don't really see much else to talk about with these guys, but. Good luck to just the tips. Moving on. Hey, look at that. FNG, number 8. How do you like that? In a year's time, he's moved up 2 spots. So He was the highest ranked at 7 and the lowest ranked at 9. He had a lot of draft picks this year. I feel like he did a pretty good job. What do you guys think?
All right, I'm going to jump on this one first because I want to give credit where credit is due. FNG was in a total rebuild last year. He won, 3 games? And the rest were not anywhere close to being able to be won. But he just bided his time, took his draft picks, went out, and got some fantastic upside rookies. I just want to say that if I had the opportunity to draft Drake London on my team, I would have done it 1,000 times plus one. Like, the fact that he has Drake London in his bench right now just kind of proves that he's a Titans fan foremost because he has Burks in his starting lineup. But I think Drake London is going to be a flex guy that takes over like Renfro's position, I think, because I think Renfro is going to be on a downslide this year with Adams being on the team. But I think he did really well drafting some high-end rookies. Kenneth Walker, he's going to be the lead back if Chris Carson doesn't come back. I actually hope that Chris Carson doesn't come back because I don't want anything super, super bad happening to him with his neck injury. Like, those things are so scary to even think about playing a top speed NFL game with the possibility of one fatal tackle and that could be the end. All she wrote is astronomical. Like, the thought of that is just ridiculous.
He plays hard too. You know, he's the kind of guy that initiates contact, and it's hard to unlearn those things. So I'm with you there. I'm kind of scared for him, to tell you the truth.
And he's got some really good starting wide receivers. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm really high on Chris Godwin. Shocker, yes, I know. I think Amari Cooper does really well in Cleveland. So they're going to be pretty good, solid points for him. The only points that I don't like on his starting lineup right now is Logan Thomas. I think he's kind of a flash in the pan. He was good for a few games, and then everybody was chasing the upside. But their quarterback play is very touch and go. So even with their Carson Wentz there now, like, I don't think he did very well in Philadelphia for tight end. So Logan Thomas is a question mark for me, and Miles Sanders is actually a question mark for me also. I'm interested to see how Philadelphia runs the ball, if it's going to be Hurts as the lead running back, and Miles Sanders is kind of like a lost but not forgotten kind of running back, but we'll see what that happens. But those two guys are my only 2 question marks, and I think Hunter Renfrow gets reseeded by Drake London not too distant into the season.
Yeah, I'm with you on Drake London. I think I'd probably have him in there already, to be honest with you, but you know.
Yeah, me too.
I think, you know, we talk about F&G and his rebuild, and this is a pretty good start. You know, he's still got 4 first-round picks next year, 3 first-round whatever next year. So he's still in the middle of a rebuild, and his team looks, you know, quite a bit better than it did last year already. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes some in-season moves with some of these guys. I think the Amari Cooper trade, he got some insane value on a guy like Cooper. I wouldn't be too surprised if he strings together a few nice games with Watson back at some point, and somebody picks him up and, you know, moves him there. I think and same with Sanders. I think if Sanders puts together some games, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets moved because of the first-round picks he has next year. I am not doubting F&G's ability at all. That's not what this next point is about. But now we get to see just how good of a fantasy manager he is week to week, because he's got some decisions to make every week. So easy to get your draft picks, big guy. But you know, now you got to start him. So let's Boston Scott sitting on your bench with 2 wins last year. So let's see what happens.
I think that's a great point. I think it's going to be fun to watch FNG this last year. He just set his lineup, and it is what it is. Like it's more on you than it is on him. But this year he's actually going to have to do some like weekly, hey, do I start this guy over this guy type deal. It'll be fun to watch.
Like even Kenneth Walker, the talk out of camp already is that Rashad Penny's the go-to guy in the beginning of the season. So
yeah, they'll be fine for like 2 weeks, and then Rashad Penny will get like normal.
Any other guy except for Pete Carroll, I would agree with you.
It'll be fine.
Pete Carroll
he's got Rashad Penny, so
yeah.
he's got the Seattle backfield kind of sewn up. I think he's got the top 2 guys there.
Stop pushing Rashad Penny on me.
You probably want him in another league that we won't talk about, but probably should pay up for him. I think you should pay up for him. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about Penny's. It's Penny's job to lose right now, and if he can stay healthy, that's been the big thing for him. If he can stay healthy, he might be at least a committee. Maybe he's the edges out, but hey, I mean, he's got them both, so it's good for him. Godwin, I don't think he's going to be playing. I'd say I wouldn't be looking for him until the last half of the season. And I think the same with Logan Thomas. I think that Logan Thomas injury, his was earlier, but man, it seems to be lingering. He doesn't seem to be coming back from it very well. He's a little bit older too. People forget that he was backup quarterback for Arizona for several years before he converted to tight end. So he's young. He's young in our minds, but he's old for dynasty. So he's really struggling coming back from that knee problem. So yeah, I think London's going to be in there because Godwin's not going to be in there. So I think he's going to have London up in there. I think Sanders can have a good year, but the thing with Sanders that was disturbing from last year, no passing, no receiving upside, and then he had 5 carries inside the 5-yard line. He's not their goal line guy. It was
one game, right, Primo?
It was maddening to me. Yeah, right. It was maddening to me as a Sanders guy that to see Gainwell come in there and get the touchdowns, And I was like, and Gainwell's this little bitty guy, but he's for whatever reason he finds the end zone and Sanders doesn't, So I think Sanders is going to have to be a volume play. So yeah, he is a little volatile. I think he can have a good season, but he definitely is a little bit volatile because some of the things that you can count on them getting points for as a running back, he's not getting those things. He's not getting receptions. He's not getting goal line carries. So yeah, Renfro, he was good last year. Let's see if he can keep that up this year because now with Adams in there, Waller, if Waller's playing, I mean, Renfro's going to have to fight for those targets, man. It's going to be tough.
I think Renfro's due for some regression, but it's going to be interesting to see what type of regression it's going to be.
Yeah. Juju, of course, is a big wild card. If he returns to his former, glory days like he had in Pittsburgh, he's going to be something in that offense. But man, there's
I'll go off the record. If I was given the opportunity to acquire Juju, I would acquire him. I think he's going to be really good. He'll be the second look in that offense, but when you're playing with a offense like Kansas City that wants to score a lot of points because defense is all that great, and you got Patrick Mahomes throwing you the freaking football, I mean, if you're going to have to throw some little extra stock to go get at him, I think it was very, very intelligent of F&G to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth the dart throw there. It's hard to say what's going to happen there in Kansas City now. MES he's kind of an up and down guy. He had some drop issues and got the speed. He can get behind the defense, but then he's got some drop issues, and that makes you not look his way as much. So we'll have to see if he can put together a little bit more solid campaign with Kansas City. I think FNG's in a little bit of trouble with running back depth. Robinson, he's another guy that with his injuries, he's not going to be in there anytime soon. He might be another one of these.
be the lead back in Jacksonville?
What's that?
Do you think ETN's going to be the lead back in Jacksonville?
I mean, I think he's going to have to be because I don't think Robinson's going to be ready with that Achilles
Yeah,
as late as he hurt it.
Might not be ready with it.
Yeah, I think he's going to be late coming in. I like Stevenson, but he was up and down, and he still got Damian Harris. Plus, they drafted a couple of guys. I think Stevenson's good, but we'll have to see what his usage is. And then, yeah, maybe Boston Scott's the guy that he really needs to hang his hat on.
Oh yeah.
Start Boston Scott. Damn it, we've been telling you how long now.
We're going on a freaking year now.
The good news for his depth is he has Brian Edwards. So worst case, he puts Brian Edwards in and wins. So.
Yeah. Hey, maybe it'll come together in Atlanta for him, but
Hey,
there's a lot.
Marios won a championship, okay?
Yeah,
So it could be anybody.
Yeah. And his tight end is pretty bad too. I mean, so he's got Logan Thomas in there. I don't think he's going to be ready to start the season. Could be on PUP. So you're looking at Everett and Bryant, man. He kind of needs a trade for a tight end. I don't think he's got one on the taxi, but I don't think Jake Ferguson's going to be in there yet.
Come right into my office. I have tight ends.
Too many.
I have a tight end that will fit your scheme.
I gave him Everett when I traded for Pickett. So he's got Everett. That could be a good sleeper. But man, I'd hate to be counting on a sleeper. I mean, they in Cleveland they re-signed Njoku. I think Bryant's good. I think he's a really good red zone end zone guy. But I mean, Njoku's there still too. So it's kind of a mess.
He's a Tennessee Titans fan. I just so happen to have the tight end for Tennessee Titans.
The top guy.
Hooper.
The top dog.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Titans
You
here.
can make a deal happen, sir.
Speaking of the Titans, does Burks what? I mean, come on, the asthma, is this real? I'd bench him. I'd trade him. I'd get rid of him. I'd cut him immediately.
Yeah, I put that right up with Jamar Chase not being able to catch a football without the white stripe on it. I mean, come on.
I would know. Well, the funny thing is, people were making that comparison, but the coaching, when they talked about Jamar Chase, they were not worried about it. But the Titans are clearly worried about this conditioning issue they have with Burks. Which,
yeah.
We have 3 months, but still.
I had other concerns because he was kind of a gadget guy, so to me, saying that
AJ Brown, did you hear?
picking him and trading away AJ and thinking that he's going to be plugged in for AJ, they're not the same type of player, So I'm a little concerned about that. I think he's a good athlete. I think maybe he's just a little bit out of shape. I think other guys have played with asthma before, so I don't think that's the biggest concern. I'm just wondering, what are they going to do with him? Because what they want to do with him in that offense is not what he did at Arkansas. So could be a learning curve there. May want to sell high though, right, Mike? Just sell high.
That's what I think.
Come talk to you, right? So Sean, we got FNG down for Hooper with you. Mike was going to talk to him about Burks. We're just trying to help you.
Wait. If he wants Hooper, I can make a trade for Burks.
Yeah. Well, we're
Burks
just trying
can come and sit on my bench and have asthma. I don't mind.
I
Help
do
us
have
help you.
Mo
I mean,
Alley
that's the point.
Cox, so don't count him out. And to be fair, I have actually had more than 0 offers that included Mo Alley Cox, so I got a leg up.
Well, Austin Hooper has shown that he can be a top tight end in the league, and he just so happens to be on his favorite team. Just saying. And some early talks coming out of camp is that he is the lead target for
preferred target. The preferred target.
Preferred target. That's high praise. Preferred.
That's because everybody else is hurt.
Whoa!
Or they have asthma.
Hey, it's okay. I can give him the non-asthma guy for an asthma guy. Fine. I feel like there's a 3rd round draft pick in there someplace. I mean, coming back to me, going to him, I'm okay either way.
Well, to wrap this up, I'll just say, Tank Top Mike, I've heard that you've had plenty of offers for Mo Cox, but that's neither here nor there.
That's right.
Moving on. Moving on. We'll go to.
Oh my God!
Speaking
we'll go
of
on to number
speaking of
7.
Chubb, let's talk
Number
about
7.
Aaron's roster.
Speaking of Mo Cox,
Number 7 on our list is A-Bomb, our buddy A-Bomb. And
wait, you gotta put some emphasis on his name. He is the champion.
No. Yeah.
He is the reigning champ of the NAO Football League. Are
Yeah.
you saying he's in the bottom 5 in rankings?
He is. I was gonna say that's the odd thing, and that's what Mike came in with when we were in pre-show. Kind of weird to see A-Bomb, the reigning champ, down there ranked at number 7. He had the biggest discrepancy for the high-low. So his high was number 4, his low was number 8, averaged out to number 7. Everybody else was pretty much in the same range. He was the biggest swing there. So I guess some of these sites still like that roster he has, and others were probably thinking it's a little bit, it's getting a little bit long in the tooth. What do you think?
Yeah, I think
Go ahead.
it's tough to look at his roster right now in this offseason particularly because, I mean, Josh Allen, perfectly fine. He's a 1A, 1B, whatever. But then you go down to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, which we like them, but do we now? Going into this season? I mean,
They're not going to be as run heavy, right?
I mean, well, there's potential. You got to think about starting the season or a significant portion of the season with potentially Jacoby Brissett, and
Right.
what kind of offense does that look like? Especially for Nick Chubb. And then you go down. You got Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, which we would all love to roster, but there are some valid question marks with their new teams.
Which one would you want to roster more, Adams or Hill?
I say Adams.
Yeah,
I
I'd
say
probably lean Adams. Yeah.
And mainly because I think Waddle is still going to be a favorite target of Tua. I don't think Tua is so bad. I just think that Waddle's going to be a big target there, and it's going to be Adams and Waller, basically. With Carr, but two of the same guy. And he'll be kind of picking which one's the most open or the has the best coverage pre-snap.
The good news is he has Mark Andrews still, so he'll score an unreasonable number of points with Mark Andrews every week.
Big fact.
Yeah.
But
I look at his lineup and I'm like, man, there's a lot of Buffalo Bills.
yeah, I was gonna say the Gabe Davis is There's a lot of it's actually kind of fun that A-Bomb is 4th and 8th. Who knows where he is? There's a lot of that with Gabe Davis as well. The Dynasty community cannot come to a consensus on what to do with Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
Great correlation.
Good point,
Great
man. Yeah.
correlation, Takedown Mike. That is why our viewers come watch our show for
That's right.
tidbits. Those are solid tidbits.
Yeah, you see, one guy's got him as his wide receiver 20, and then another guy's got him as a wide receiver 42.
And then everybody that's pro Davis is like, oh, he had 4 touchdowns in a playoff game, blah, blah, blah. It was against Kansas City. Everybody was fucking scoring crazy on Kansas City. They still lost the game, all right?
And then, do you go off of one playoff game where you got to score that many points and you still lose, or do you go off that he had exactly one game of over 100 yards all season, and it was against the Jets, and he only had 3 receptions in that 100-yard game?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, both sides are right. Like, you can argue both sides, and neither of you are wrong. But it's going to be like, who's going to get lucky and figure out that way is the way that he goes. I think Davis being on A-Bomb's team with Josh Allen makes the most sense, though. Like, that skinny stack, I mean, he couldn't go get Stephon Diggs because, A, he's on your team, Tank Top, and it would cost him way too much to go get him. But when he acquired Gabriel Davis, I was like, oh, yeah, that could be a sneaky pickup because I'm pro Davis. I think Davis is going to be wide receiver 2 this year, and it's going to be fun to watch him play. But I think the person that actually gets hurt the most is another guy in his flex position, Knox. Like, I think he drops off the face of the. He's like tight end 40, all right? Because they're not going to take it away from freaking Stephon Diggs because they're not freaking stupid, and they may or may not sprinkle in some running back drop-offs. So Davis, if he has an upside, he's going to have to steal looks from somebody, and it's going to be the tight end.
Well, there's also the that old cowboy, Cole Beasley. He's not there anymore. So there are some targets vacated, and they might go to
like about 120 targets last year, I think.
Hey, for like his slot kind of guy, he had a decent number of targets, and I think Gabe Davis picks up some of those, and like you said, I'm not trying to be a homer with my roster, but I don't think any of the target really hurts Stephon Diggs going into next season. But I think to Mark's question of do you rank him at 20 or 40, honestly, it's a shitty answer. I put him at 30. I think he's
right?
I think he jumps up slightly, but I think that playoff game was an anomaly, and I look at the other 16 games where he was right down the middle. But sometimes all you need is a game like that, and you pop off, and that improves your career. And obviously they have some faith in him because they didn't bring too much in the draft. Like Shakir came in, obviously, but I feel like they showed some trust in Gabe Davis, so he does jump up a little bit, but. I wouldn't put him aside.
He may not ever have another game where he has 4 touchdowns, but if he has a plethora of 2-touchdown games, Buffalo Bills are freaking geniuses because he's been getting comparisons to Chris Godwin getting picked up in later rounds and after turning out to be like badass because Chris Godwin is badass. Marky Mark and I have been on the Gabe Davis train since it's left the station, so we would love for him to go crazy.
Here's another fun one about Gabe Davis. Ready? Owned in 100% of fantasy leagues, and he is in the starting lineup of half of those.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I'm a believer because Sanders was cutting into his playing time last season. He's out of the way. I think he kind of jumps in and takes what Sanders was getting. And if you look at it, he finished well down the stretch and into the playoffs. So he finished strong. Sanders is gone, so I think that he's going to be wide receiver 2 on his team. I think he'll be a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. I believe in him. I just was looking, when I traded him away, it was just about trying to get some draft capital, and I kind of had the luxury to trade him, and it made sense for A-Bomb with having Josh Allen. So I still have Davis rostered in another league, and I got high hopes for him. I have him in my starting lineup, so I'm part of that upper 50%. So I think he's going to be all right. I really do. When I look at the starting lineup, the name that pops out to me that I think a lot of people are forgetting about is Mike Evans, because we just talked about Godwin. He's not going to be in there. So they brought in Gronk retired. I don't know if you heard. He retired, and so who does he got? Who does Brady have that he's got a rapport with more than Mike Evans? He brought in, apparently he wanted Gage in there. He mentioned something about bringing in Gage, and I could see Gage, getting a bump, just because you got to throw it to more than one guy. But yeah, Evans to me, gosh, I think he slipped down in ADP. And in redraft, man, I'll be looking for him, man, because I think he'd be a great value. So I think that's a dark horse in his starting lineup. So I think, his roster is older, but with the stacks that he's got there with Knox and Davis, he's got Andrews, um, he's got Josh Allen. Those two receivers, he can still do some damage, man. I mean, I can see them ranking him seventh because of overall age and maybe not as much depth. But man, it's still a nice starting lineup that he has. It really is.
I think for A-Bomb to make another run at this championship 2 years in a row, he's going to need a couple of depth guys to break out and have stellar first years or stellar years in general. Because I think starting both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt at the same time is okay if Kareem Hunt is your last flex spot. You know what I mean?
I think it's okay week one for sure. Yeah.
What's that?
I think it's okay week one for sure. And I'd want to see how that team goes, but I think week one I agree with you. Yeah.
Because I would feel better if he had a more solid running back one as his second running back spot. I mean, yes, Kareem Hunt is solid, and he is a guy that you could depend on in the flex spot if need be. But to be my number two running back and my number one running back is also on the same team, like, you're kind of like, there's a points that they're both going to establish, and it's going to be like, that's all you're going to get. Say both of them together gets 25 points, right? Like, one might have less, the other one will have more, but you're only going to get 25 points if you start both of them. If you were to start two different running backs, the upside is more, but the floor might be a little less. If that makes sense. I would think starting him over Knox and trying to make a move, get another running back, or at least getting another depth piece where you don't have to start Knox and then you can move pieces around a little bit. That might help, but I mean, he's got some of the best players in football right now. So, and he won last year with Rex Burkhead and Braxton Berrios on the freaking starting lineup. I will never forget that, but
Still there.
we'll see what happens. I mean,
You still got him.
Yeah. I think though that's a good point. With his roster, is his starting lineup is fantastic, but
Yeah.
his depth is a little questionable. And I don't know everybody's depth across the entire league, but this might be a little controversial. Maybe, I don't know. You guys can correct me, but his depth might be some of the weakest across that we've kind of looked at, or down there. Anyway, and I think that could be where some of his value, like he's 8th or 4th. How much do they value depth and stuff like that? Because it is a little questionable when you get down there. Obviously, like you said, he won with some guys that you never would have started on any other week. So who cares? I guess, but
That's fantasy for you too, though. The hot guy down the
start Braxton Berrios.
the,
I mean,
the
at
hot
least
guy
in
down the
Silly's
stretch
defense,
does it for you.
In Silly's defense, I would much rather be able to flex in like Jacoby Myers, than most of the guys that that Aaron has on his bench. So.
One that jumps off to me is Raheem Mostert. He's older for sure, but he could, if he can stay healthy for one more season, and playing for his former coach there. He's reunited with a guy there in Miami. I can't remember his name right now, but he could be a dark horse there. And Kareem Hunt is they're still talking about him maybe being traded. He's not a lock to be on that roster, especially with what they've done. You might have heard they spent a little bit of money this offseason, so he could be a cap casualty somehow.
I think that would be the best thing for A-Bomb if he got traded to a team that needed a running back and that was going to be a lead back. That would be like a blessing from up above for A-Bomb.
Yeah, I think so too, because he's also got Dearness Johnson, who is really good, and if Kareem Hunt's gone and Dearness is the next man up, or takes the Kareem Hunt role, he may have another guy that right now doesn't look like much, but could be something later on. So I think that's I look at Mostert and Dearness Johnson as kind of dark horses there. But you're right, Mike. When I look up and down his bench, I'm just not getting excited. Devontae Parker could be somebody this year if he can stay healthy. Another one of these guys that he stays healthy and he does good things, and he's the kind of guy that fits in well with New England and Mac Jones. So he could be another guy. You see, he drafted Shakir. He loves some Buffalo, don't he?
He's gonna stack in that team. God damn it!
Yeah, when he's doing his Q, man, he's sorting it by team. Buffalo.
Beat Buffalo first.
Little weak at tight end too. So yeah, man, I'll tell you, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. He's playing that top 5 schedule, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him.
He has a
hey,
similar.
Mom, you need a tight end. I got a plenty.
Yeah.
You can come knock down my door. I'll give you one.
What are you saying there, Mike?
I think it's a little kind of, maybe I'm off here, but he has a similar approach to the season of Dilly. They went all in on that starting lineup, but Abel knew what he was doing a little bit more and sort of traded for some better guys.
I think what we're looking at is the ramification of going all in and getting a championship. You know, like, he didn't care about what he was going to have next year.
Sorry.
He was worried about winning the championship and getting that trophy. You know, like, I honestly think he wasn't thinking about, what's it going to look like next year? He didn't give 2 shits. He just wanted the trophy, which we would all be in that category.
I was just counting. You said ramification. That's a 5-syllable word. I was just, if you need to take a rest for a second, man, that's fine.
Here, I'm very pleased.
I always do the clap. Ramification.
Yeah. Whew, man. All right. Let's go to our last team of the evening. That is Goofy Jace, coming in at team number 6. His highest was number 5. His lowest was number 7 for an average of 6. We didn't talk about the rate my team. He was number 4. So the guest pod there, they had him number 4, and our ECR here has him at number 6. That was one of the differences there. What do you guys think? He had a lot of draft picks this year. Did a little bit of started a little bit of a rebuild. So he's got a little mix of old and young. What do you guys think?
So I think, looking at his starting lineup right now, the only person that makes me question is Cordell Patterson, like what he's going to do this year. He's the only one that I'm really questioning. I think Russell Gage could be a dark horse, could be a sleeper for him this year. And Alan Lazar could be a sleeper too, because we have no idea who the hell Aaron Rodgers is going to go to now that Adams is gone. So, and we all know that he likes to focus on one wide receiver and then everybody else gets scraps. So whoever that wide receiver is, that's the person that you're going to want on your team. But there's nothing saying that Alan Lazard could not be that guy. But I would like to make a couple pointers on his draft. I really, really, really like Alec Pierce in Indianapolis. I think he's going to be a really good rookie. He may even starting lineup this year. I am big on Alec Pierce. And I think, obviously, Breece Hall, I mean, you don't draft him without the idea of starting him the same season. I mean, he's going to be the lead back in the New York Jets offense, and that offense is supposedly on the uptick. That whole team is supposedly on the uptick. So we'll see what Hall does.
Yeah, I think he went into the draft similar to F&G. Looking for a rebuild, had a ton of picks. I don't necessarily think one did better than the other with their picks. I think they both did really well.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think Goofy might have some changes to his starting lineup. Here kind of eventually, because I think he drafted some guys that, like you said, Sean, he can start pretty much right away. Goofy's team, not in a bad way. It's just a boring, solid team. Like,
Yeah.
A guy like Russell.
Use the term safe.
Yeah, it's a safe team. Which is perfectly fine. It works for him, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think, he drafted some safe picks too, and I think they're going to work out pretty well for him. Like you said, I have some questions about Patterson.
I feel like his team has a really, really good floor, but the potential of having a high, like scoring a 200-point game is like just not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I think after this year is done, we're going to be able to look at Goofy's lineup and be like, all right, he was scoring consistently between 115, 125 every week. Boom, you could put it in the books regardless of bye weeks,
Yeah, I think that's kind of on point. I think a lot of these guys that he's got not just in his starting lineup but his bench. He's got some solid bench depth too, some safe guys there. I think he's got it's safe. It's boring, but it works. I think Dobbins coming back is going to be a pretty big boost for him, and how that all pans out. I think there's some question marks if any of those running backs are going to be ready by week 1. So who knows, really? But I think they'll be fine. But I also wouldn't be too surprised, depending on how the early season goes, to see him make some moves with a guy like Keenan Allen. Potentially there, like you said, with Lazard. Who knows what's going to go on there? But I think, and then you look at his rankings, he was 5th, 6th, or 7th across the board on every single one of these, which feels right. I think his rookies that he drafted, Breece Hall, Williams, some of these guys could come in to be pretty impactful, in the middle to the end of the season, which, if he hits on some of these guys at the end of the season, makes a playoff run, that's all you need.
He's going to be scary good. He's going to be real good. Obviously, we all know that he has a bench spot right now with Gronk not even being on the team, so he could drop in. But
that makes the Waller trade good for him now. He had the foresight there in case he did retire, to go ahead and get Waller. So that was a good pickup for him there now. That trade's looking a lot better for him.
Yeah, I love the Waller pickup for
Antonio Brown, too. He's dumpable.
Yeah. Yeah, Lazard is an interesting one because he probably will be the top guy, at least to start out. But can he, as an undrafted free agent, can he still be successful getting top guy coverage? That's something I'm real interested to see, because I got Lazard in another league, and I'm kind of wondering. I think Lazard was better with Adams there, where he drew the coverage, and Lazard is a big guy and can get open, a good contested catch guy. Now with him being the number one, if he is the number one, how does that work out? So we have to see how these rookies work in, and what kind of coverage they draw. Because if it was me as a defensive coordinator, I may pay more attention to the guy who's been there for a couple of years, knowing that Rodgers does lock onto one guy. So I'm interested to see that dynamic this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of respect they give Christian Watson right off the bat, and that will definitely either hinder or benefit to Lazard. Because I think you're right, Marky Mark, in the fact that I don't think Lazard can be the number one guy. He can't. I'm hoping that he has more of like a Juju Antonio Brown season, being Juju, Like, he's not good enough to smoke the best cornerback and safety that they got, but if they put the number 2 guy on him, darn well you're going to be throwing it to Lazard, because he's going to be rocking that CB's world. But, yeah, I don't know. It all depends. He needs help. He can't do it himself. And Rodgers is going to have to spread the ball around. He's not going to be able to hone in on anybody,
Yeah, Watson's a fast guy. So he definitely can take the top off, as they say. So we'll just have to see how he does against press and how he uses that speed, how he runs routes. It's a big jump for him from where he came from in college, going to the pros. So uh, I feel like he'll have to make some quick progress for Lazard to be better. My opinion is if Lazard is the clear number one and he draws number one coverage, he's not gonna have the numbers. He may be the top guy, but not perform like a top guy. So, fun
My
fact
question
here,
for
though.
the group, my question
Huh?
for the group on this lineup is: does Cordell Patterson start week 1?
I was just gonna, yeah, I was just gonna give a fun fact there. He's in the number two wide receiver spot. He's listed as an RB. I've heard I heard that they may give him the RB slash wide receiver designation, so you can start him in either place. But I think Patterson probably had his best, 3 quarters of a season last year, and I think that wear down that we saw at the end of the year is an indicator that unfortunately it came a little bit too late for him, and with his age, that he's not going to be able to take the wear and tear at his age. And I think we might have seen the best Patterson season last season. I really do. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I kind of agree, and it was a fun season though because you root for a guy like Patterson his entire career,
Yeah.
and to see that was super fun. Little fun fact: he had a very, very bad game against the Cowboys last year. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I do. Of course, everybody had a bad game against the Cowboys.
The guy that sat next to me definitely remembers that.
The game is out of hand when someone's sleeping by the third quarter.
It was a snooze fest by the third quarter. I'm not gonna lie. I may or may
man.
not have been that guy, but it was a snooze fest by the third quarter.
I got the proof. So
Some golden lining on this cloud that we call Goofy Jace's lineup. Laviscus Chenault is looking to be one of the top guys in Jacksonville. He kind of fell off the face of the earth last year, but he might be able to make some noise moving into year 3 there, year 2 with his quarterback there. So we'll see.
I have a love-hate thing with that. I've tried for Chenault a few times in the last few years, so I want to be
Same.
right and have him do well, but also like not on somebody else's roster.
You want to acquire him just when he goes off?
yeah, I tried for him too. So yeah, Goofy stayed put with him, but we'll see. We'll see if he made the right call or not. We talked about running back depth on some of these other teams. I kind of like Goofy's running back depth. I think Spiller's he could be the number 2 there. I think they've been looking for a number 2, and no one's really caught on. Well, they've been looking for, I mean, Eckler's been good, but I think they've been trying to draft his successor, and they haven't done it. So Spiller could be a good number 2, and maybe the successor. I think Dylan's good. Jamal Williams could be in there. Brees Hall we talked about. So I kind of look down his running back. That makes me feel a little better than the previous 4 we've talked about.
Tank Top, you're gonna sit here and let Marky talk shit about Eckler? Your man, your guy, your dude.
Did I talk shit about him? I mean, I didn't really talk
No,
shit
I
about
thought
him.
it was-
His successor? The
Yeah.
watch is on Eckler? Like, what is it?
Well, I'll let Mike speak up on it, but you got to look at his age. The best thing about him, he works his ass off. So he's one of those guys that can defy the age thing. He can definitely play longer than the normal guy, but he's also on the small side, and he's prone to some injuries, and he's getting on up there in age. So I think
I heard womp womp womp, he's small, womp womp womp, he's old, womp womp womp.
nah, he's really good, but you have to be honest here and look at the age and look at the size. And I think Spiller could be the guy that he could be the future there.
Yeah,
What do you
I
think,
mean,
Mike? I'm
yeah,
sorry
I mean,
if I
no, I
stepped
think-
on your toes there too much.
Obviously, all valid points. Spiller, we talked about him in the draft episode of he was like a tier 1 running back and then sort of fell off between the end of the college season and the NFL draft. So,
his landing spot
and his landing spot is perfect
combine.
to develop, behind Eckler for potential. Eckler, he is a little undersized, but he's the strongest guy in the locker room, bar none. They all say it.
He's good.
Dude is fine.
He's a workout warrior for sure, man.
And I seem to be able to count to 2, and that's where he finished in all RBs last year. So he's not going anywhere.
I
I'm
can
not
count to 4.
Hmm?
I can count to 4.
But yeah, I'm not too. I mean, like you said, you got to find a successor for him eventually. I think drafting a guy like Spiller though isn't necessarily they're looking for it this year. I think if they develop him, it could be the year after though for sure. I could see that happening with his set of skills and sort of his slide after the into the draft. And then Goofy and I play this game across multiple leagues of having each other's backups all over the place. So I still bring it up because one day we're gonna have a meeting. It's just gonna be a multi-league backup running back trade. It's gonna be phenomenal.
We've been silently collecting each other's handcuffs, and now we're gonna make each other's team significantly better. Blah 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 blah.
It's celebrated year after year. Say Happy Handcuff Day.
Do you think Goofy would have drafted Abram Smith in that other league in the 5th round if he, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
No. Funny story. I saw that draft in the other league, and I was like, "Oh, I see what you're doing, Goofy. I see you. Trying to be slick out here. I see you."
I got him first with Batty in this league, so.
Well, that's 10-6. Just a little quick rundown. We got Silly Dilly at 10. We got Tips at 9, right?
Yeah.
And then we got FNG, A-Bomb, the champion, at 7. Then Goofy at 6. Next week we'll do 5-1. Don't hold your breath on 2 and 1 because we just don't care. And then that's gonna be it. That's gonna be this ranking show for this season. It'll be fun to find out that half the guys in the top are gonna be in the bottom, and half the guys in the bottom are be in the top. Because that's how this league is. You can never freaking guess what the hell's gonna happen. Just ask the underdogs or the overachievers, the DVs. Because they're always in the top 5, and they're never in the top 5 this season. That's our show this week, and if you've seen the show, you know the ending. And you suck.